Hi, welcome to Cozy Corner again with some new truths today. And I was just thinking of the word that the Lord was speaking to me this morning was about a village. And so this is the word today, village. And Canada, actually, the true name of Canada is Dominion of Canada, but Canada means villages. And so I started to think about all of that, and the word villages popped right out of my spirit, and I felt He wanted me to go there. So where He brought me was back to my little village that I grew up in the northeast of Scotland, and it was called Lumsden. It's not very big. You blinked your eyes, you were through it. But anyway, in this little village, I started to think about what did He want me to say today about this. And then I kept getting about family. I kept feeling about His heart was about family. And growing up in this little village brought me back to my family in Scotland, where when something happened in the village, it was great excitement. If a new baby was born, for example, you would all get excited. Is it a boy? Is it a girl? People would go to the lady's house when she came home, or she had the baby at home. My grandmother used to go in and birth babies all the time in the homes there. And so I got excited about thinking about my past and my childhood as I was growing up in Scotland. What happened? They would go to see the new baby, but they would also help the mother. They would bring gifts and food and sometimes money and clean the house or take care of the baby so that she could go rest or things like that. That was part of being a family in the village. But everybody would go in each other's houses. And it was so fun to see a new baby. I remember going to see my cousin that was born this new baby boy, and I was all excited about going to see this baby boy. And so the Lord wants us to remember where we come from and what family means to Him, but what family once meant to you. So this went on in my thoughts to the next thing that would happen in the village would be we would get wind that there was going to be a wedding. So we all got excited about who's getting married, and we would all go to their homes with gifts, and the bride's home, and she would have all the gifts that the village people or family gave her all laid out in a room, and we'd all get to go see it. But then there would be the day of the wedding, and we would run to the kirk. It means church to those that don't mean no. But we'd run to the kirk, and we'd hear the bells ringing, and all the people going in their fancy clothes, the ones that were invited to the wedding. But for us, it wasn't like that. We got to get outside with a little box of confetti in our hand, waiting for the bride to come with her dad in the car. Then the excitement to see all the bridesmaids come out with their pretty dresses on, and then we're all waiting to see this beautiful dress that the bride would wear. This was a very, very special memory to me because we used to live very near the kirk, and we used to run over there, and it was always fun to go and see it. I mean, there was no movie theaters, there was no restaurants. We had one bar in our little town, and we didn't have things that really entertained you. You made your own entertainment, but these were all connected to knowing people, feeling about people, enjoying people, and everything we get to know about people in the village, good and bad. But anyway, but then the next thing would be when there would be any tragedies in car accidents where people would get killed or maimed or all of that. I remember one of the tragedies when I was a little girl or in school, there was one of the boys in my class that had polio, had taken polio. And in that time, that was a very, very devastating, fearful time for the whole community. The whole village was kind of paralyzed with fear because it was contagious and all of that. But I remember the teachers instructing us to love and to comfort. Our parents would pray and have us pray. They would show us the right way to respond to family tragedies in our village. So we would get to school, and the teacher would have us write notes and make cards and send little cards to this boy in the hospital. These were things that are building blocks in our life, that what family really means. So it was really a very growing time in our lives. But my grandmother, we used to get a little knock on the window in the middle of the night. And in the middle of the night, I would hear it. And my grandma would get up and she would be gone for a few hours. And then when I was older, I understood what she was doing, and I was told what she was doing. She would go out. There might be a baby going to be born in the village that night. She went to help deliver the baby. Or it might have been a death, and she went to prepare the body for the undertaker to come to the next day. And so my grandmother was very well known for these things in our growing up years, and it was all community. How did you care for your neighbor? How did you care about each other? And so the Lord is kind of showing me that through the shut up time in the virus time, is he really getting after something that has been long lost? The meaning, the real meaning to being a neighbor, to be in a family, one with another in our lives. Does he really want us to understand what his heart is when he said, and he wanted us to be one, even that his Father, the Son, and the Spirit are one? Is this what this is all really about in the spiritual end of things? I believe it might be, that he's nudging us to become close one with another. So I started to think through all of the things that have been happening, and the sorrow that our nation is in at this time about Nova Scotia. And I really cried when I heard that, because Nova Scotia's got a very amazing part of my heart. For the last 20 years, I've been able and privileged to go down there, meet with the people, and work with the people spiritually, and I've enjoyed Nova Scotia. Their fish and chips is awesome. Can't beat Aberdeen, Scotland, but it's still good. Anyway, the times that I've been down there, I've built relationships with families there, and I hope I can hold myself together today, because I can feel the grief, I can feel the pain, I can feel the sorrow that province is in at this time, and such confusion, such fear, such loss, and such pain. And so the Lord started to show me about each province to him is like a village. And so every province has its own part in this nation to play. And so I started thinking of all the things that I've learned in Nova Scotia, the people of resilience, and they've suffered many, many tragedies and things in their life down there in Nova Scotia. But there is a sense of a word that I have in my heart when I'm with them. The word is hospitality. They love to have parties. They love to sing. They love to dance. They love to serve you fish. And they love to have fun with you. And they are a beautiful, beautiful people. And of course, I'm kind of connected a little bit because there's lots of bagpipes down there. There's lots of singing and dancing down there of the Scottish jigs and so on. And the house parties are so fun. And so I've always a great joy of going there. I have a great pleasure of being with the people in Nova Scotia. But my heart goes out to them today, as yours do. And I want to say that we're praying for you, and that we're praying for all of the people scattered throughout the nations, another nation, and our nation that have any roots in Nova Scotia and are hurting today. We want to say, we ask the Lord to comfort you, to bring life to you, to bring hope to you today, to bring peace to your hearts, because it's hard to figure it all out, and sometimes we just can't. We just have to walk through the pain. So today I was just thinking of all these things, and I just wanted to a comfort and bring encouragement to each one of you today, and to relate some things that's been happening with me in my walk with the Nova Scotia people. About a year ago, Pastor Lynn from Halifax usually has me down to do a women's conference for her. And so I haven't been able to go for the last few years because my husband fell in the ice and now is in a wheelchair. And so he is in a nursing home for the last 4 years. So I know what pain and separation and loss can be in a family. But I want to bring this truth to you today. God's grace is sufficient. And so the Lord was speaking to me today about my heart and where my heart goes with these people, and how to remain faithful and true to them in their hard times, because we never know when we're going to have in our province, in our village of Alberta, because we never know when our turn comes that we need to comfort each other more and more, like we've been going through with all the oil and the loss of jobs and all of that. We're all having to walk through a new way of things changing, economy changing, government changing, everything changing. But we can still obey God. Love one another as I have loved you. It's not a choice, it's a command that he puts upon us. He tells us, I don't give you a choice to do that. I command that. This is the new commandment that Jesus did when after the cross, he made it possible that we could all be one as he, the Father and Son, were one. And we want to answer Jesus' prayer in John 17 and believe God that Canada, as a Joseph nation, can rise up and be the one that loves, forgives, and walks with their brothers. This is so important to not just to the body of Christ, but to the whole nation. We need to know what God's heart is for this nation. He is awakening this nation. He's saying to this nation, I'm awakening you as a Joseph. I'm bringing you out of the pit into the palace, and I'm going to show you off as a trophy of my grace. So when I started getting a download with the Lord, I started to see about Nova Scotia. And when I was in Israel last November with a team from Canada and one girl from the United States, and we were there to do a prophetic school and a Deborah school, and we were all learning how to be Deborahs and how to war for Israel and how to walk this out and believe God to break things in the now for Israel and for the nations. And we had a tremendous, unprecedented, awesome time with each other on that school. And so I just really appreciate Pastor Dale that set that up, and we just had so much evidence of God being with us and doing things that was way beyond our expectation. So I really just enjoyed that first week there. But prior to going to Israel in November, I kept feeling the Lord wanted me to stay a second week. So I started to invite the ladies, if you would like to stay a second week, I have things that I on my heart about bonding with the women of the east of Canada. That we needed to be deeper in relationship, deeper in love one with another as the Lord would have it. So I invited them to stay. We found a beautiful apartment right on the Mediterranean Sea on the 14th floor, overlooking the ocean. It's just an amazing place. But it was a hideaway where we could all be together in one apartment. It was a big apartment. So some of the ladies were able to stay, and we stayed together in this apartment. We cooked together, danced together, played together, worshiped together. We did all kinds of things together. We'd shop together, went to see different things together, beautiful drives. And Heather was an amazing driver. She just could drive us anywhere. It was awesome. And so we bonded that week in a beautiful way. And so I'm so grateful that we can hear just tiny whispers of God and what he wants, but we don't always know why those those little tiny little nudges from God are so important, because to us it doesn't seem that important at the time. But the amazing thing was, it was important to God. And so we gathered there, we had fun there, and so on. The last night before we left that place, I felt the Lord. There was some things that I could feel the Lord saying to me. And Pastor Lynn had been trying to get me to go back down to Nova Scotia and do a conference in the spring. So I decided, Lord, this is the time, and I'm going to step out, because I've been home looking after my husband for a long time before he went in the nursing home. And so then I couldn't go any longer looking after him, so I couldn't go on the road the same either when these things were happening. So I just never gave her a date. So that day around the table, she said, come on, I need a date. So Len, we got the date together. And we chose April 1 to 6 of this year. And so, and we got all excited about what God wanted to do, and we prayed that through. So I said, let me pray and let me believe God to pray this, seal this in with a prayer. So we did. But in the meantime, the Lord started to speak prophetically through me. And he said, Lynn, to give Lynn a word. And so I started to open my mouth. And before I could speak, I had a vision. And in that vision, I saw a huge hand carrying a big, big Canadian flag. And it was planted right in the middle of Nova Scotia. And I knew it was the Father's hand, and so I was happy to see this vision. But the thing that maybe surprised me was, it wasn't the Nova Scotia flag, it was the Canadian flag. So I don't have a whole lot of understanding of Canadian history. I grew up and went to school in Scotland, so I have lots to learn yet about Canada and its history. But anyway, I saw the flag. Then I had the Lord give me this word, Ode, O-D-E, to Nova Scotia. And I really realized that he had a big plan, and something beautiful and something big was going to happen in Nova Scotia. So I had quickened into the Spirit with him and asked him, Lord, reveal that to me. Reveal what's going on. But anyway, what happened was that the Ode to Nova Scotia is like a song or a poem about something or someone, or a place or an event. And so I felt that the Lord was just kind of showing me that he wanted to show Nova Scotia off. And he had a big, big plan for Nova Scotia. So anyway, I came home to Canada. I started putting things together, getting so excited, getting really excited about what's God going to do. So I was starting to pull up on all my stuff that happened in Scotland with bagpipes and violins and all of that. And then I started to find out why he wanted these things for me to be able to bring them in and be part of this conference. One was that the violin, which was an amazing thing, the violin was once confiscated, and the violins were stolen, or burned, sorry. They were burned and taken away, and in the church, from the church, and they didn't believe in the violin, and they didn't believe in the music in the church at that time. And so I found that out. So I decided I'm going after a violinist, and I got a violinist, or Lynn did, and we've been together. And I know this girl, and she's precious. And she told me the story about the violins being ruined and taken. And then I started thinking of my brother and my family and how I grew up in a Scottish home with bagpipes. My brother was very gifted in music and played the bagpipes for many, many years and went around the world with these bagpipes and his band, and even played before the Queen in Balmoral Castle. And so he had a great gift in music. But anyway, I started to think of all these things about how we connect in our nation to nation, and how Nova Scotia is called New Scotland. And so I started to find out all about their tartan and all about the things that's in their culture and in their background and in their history, and so that really made me start to feel, God, you're really in this. You're about to speak. You're about to speak out of Nova Scotia. And so this is what happened, is I heard this When the Piper Played. The song, so it's a song that was put together by regiments in Scotland, and it was When the Piper Played. So I thought, Lord, you want me to use that? And yes, I want you to use that. So when I used that, when I started to look at that, I knew that there was a signal in that. There's some kind of signal in that. So anyway, I started looking all these things up, and so of course, you know that, you guessed it, I had to cancel, and we had to cancel the conference because of the virus, and which saddened our team's heart, because our team was pretty excited about going, and we got all our different things and all our prophetic acts to go down there, and our flags and all this stuff, and we were all excited to go down there and really, really wanted to be part of Nova Scotia's birthing into the new reset that God had for Nova Scotia. And what happened is, of course, the virus shut us all down. So I asked the Lord, did I make a mistake? And he said, no, you didn't make a mistake. It's just the timing. So that was good. So then we went on to going through all of this situation, and walking through, keeping in touch with Nova Scotia. And then to see last week the horrible tragedy that's taken place there. It just really devastated my heart. I was crying. I couldn't believe the pain and the sorrow and the grief and the losses of families in Nova Scotia. Some whole families were destroyed together, and it was so devastating to watch that. And I asked the Lord to help me process it well, and to hear his heart. And I heard his heart. I heard him saying, I'm going to heal the soul of Nova Scotia. And I'm going to break the winter season that the province has been in. And I'm going to reinstate and reset it and be a voice in this nation of Canada. I'm going to bring forth their culture, their songs, their dance, the joy and the hospitality that's in that province, like it is in the Newfoundland province, where we saw in 9/11 how that was a worldwide eyewitness of the heart of love that was from Newfoundland. It's now even made into a movie. So God was showing me that maritime provinces that seem so far away and not connected, the Lord is going to reconnect and reset them in, and with the evidence of the evidence of the Canadian flag right in the middle of it. There's going to be something big. I am so sad to feel that they're having to go through what they're going through, but out of it, where the enemy meant for evil, the Lord's going to bring good. And I want to encourage all of you to really pray and to really be conscious of their need at this time. Ask the Lord not only how to pray, but how do you take part in the restoration of this village. When we were growing up, one village would know what happened in another village, and we would be part of helping them get back on their feet. And this is what we need right now. We need all the prayers, and we are Canadian. We're a Joseph nation. who was restored to his brothers, we are going to be restored province to province and family to family. And we are going to see a whole breaking out of what Nova Scotia carries in the nations of the world, and how to bring family healing and deliverance to the country and to other countries. We want to just share that the Lord has a deep heart for each province in this nation. We weren't all called a village within a country for no reason. So I really encourage you to really stretch out to these families and to see where we can be in every way a help, like we were when we were growing up in our little villages, making sure that we would bring whatever we had to be part of their restoration. We want Joseph, this nation, to rise, and we want total healing, and that we would be that healing to other nations throughout the earth. There is such a joy of serving him together and to fulfilling the plan of God, to have this prayer of Jesus answered. I love coming to you with these little talks or these little things. And I had a whole bunch of papers and a whole lot of stuff more to say. But I feel that I've said what he wanted me to say. And I will be going to Nova Scotia, but it'll be in his timing. And we will be bringing the joy, and we'll be bringing life, and we'll be bringing comfort. And that right now, all we can do is stretch it out in the Spirit and there's no distance in the Spirit. There is no distance at all in the Spirit. What you do here and through your Spirit, and loving them and releasing to them and sending little notes to them or money to them or whatever is needed, let the Lord lead you. Let's be generous one to another. Let's be like Joseph was. He fed his brothers in a time of need, and there was great restoration for Joseph and his family, his father, and all of them came out victorious and prosperous. We want that for Nova Scotia. We want it for the whole nation of Canada. And so right now, I just ask you to be conscious of the whisper of God. I want you to listen to his whisper about what he's saying to you about this church and about this family and about this province, this village in his heart, that he wants to bring life and something from again. My friend who is from Nova Scotia sent me the night after all this happened. She took a picture of the sky in Nova Scotia. It was fire red. And I was quickened to that little saying that my grandma used to always say, the red sky at night is the shepherd's delight. And so when I looked at that picture, I was just overcome with the thought, fire revival is coming out of Nova Scotia. And I started to see the fire coming up out of the ground and being released from Nova Scotia from east to west. And so I believe that God is going to show such a fiery love, that true love that Nova Scotia carries. I believe it's going to come in such an unprecedented way. So open your heart, open your lives, open up, and be led of God's Spirit to help at this time. Well, guys, till next time, I love you, and God loves you.